Hi, thanks for tuning in to Classics on Point. And today we're going to talk about Taxi Driver. I'm Scott Brown,
I'm Victoria Davis.
and this film is definitely a Martin Scorsese masterpiece, and probably one of the best films of all time, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, the imagery that he uses where he does close-ups of the taxi and close-ups of the street and close-ups of the lights on the street is just unbelievable, and it really kind of like sets the mood, especially when he uses the same kind of music throughout the whole thing.
Yeah, and just like the characters in it and his direction and like the intensity of it. But so, what are your first initial thoughts on the film?
It's definitely unconventional, and I don't know if that's just because it's kind of before our time and we're used to kind of fast pace and all of that, but it's slower pace, it's unconventional, but it actually really walks you through the emotions of the person in a very real way. Really nice.
Everything just felt so fleshed out. The writing is incredible as well.
Yeah, the dialogue is so real, and it's just very like down to earth. And I think my favorite thing about this film was how like, so not to like overuse the word, but real. How, like, actual all of the scenes were, especially with Jodie Foster and the pimps, and seeing kind of the dialogue between De Niro and Jodie Foster, which is really funny actually because they went on these coffee dates before they started filming, and she said at first. Foster said at first it was really boring because he would just kind of run through the lines with her and didn't really talk much. But then one day when he took her out to the cafe, he started improvising. And then she had to learn how to kind of come back to the original script and everything. And she said that was the first time that she actually really fell in love with acting. That before people were just saying, oh, just be yourself, just be yourself. But then she said that that was the first time that someone had actually trusted her enough to make her do a little bit more work than normal, and she just like fell in love with acting at that point. At least that's what she says. And so I think that it was really cool to see her and De Niro working together, and then her and Harvey as well. The interaction, especially that dance, which is so creepy and so twisted in so many ways. But it's
I squirm in my seat every time.
Well, he actually rehearsed that scene with a real ex-pimp that they brought this guy on, and Harvey was kind of like, well, show me what to do. Show me what normally like someone would do in that situation. And
again, like, what draws me into this film is the realism. Everything's so dirty. Everything so grimy.
The theme, at least that I got from this film, was just complete isolation and loneliness.
Yeah, and that sense of isolation just is also very much in those scenes when he's in his apartment by himself, creating those like contraptions to carry guns on him. He's in his taxi by himself. When he goes to that porno theater by himself.
You kind of see his character develop and change throughout the story, where he's so mediocre in the beginning.
Yeah.
As it goes on, he starts becoming less and less tolerant of the things that he starts to see, like the $20 bill that the pimp kind of throws at him.
An amazing character arc that Travis has, like, and like, at the end, like, he does some monstrous stuff, like, with doing it, but you know he's, like, the right thing to do, even if it's not necessarily the right way to go about doing it.
Yeah.
What's your favorite scene in the film, though?
I have two. So my first is the dance between Jodie and Harvey, because it's because of how uncomfortable and disturbing it is, and how good of a job they did with it, and how much detail there was there. Just how
effective it is.
And how it was extremely effective. And so I loved that scene, and I also loved the scene between Jodie Foster and Robert De Niro at the cafe, where they're talking,
incredible.
and what was your favorite scene?
My favorite is definitely the scene in the taxi with that one customer who is actually Martin Scorsese.
Oh my gosh!
One, it's brilliantly written. It's so well acted, like, it's so intense, and it's so disturbing without actually doing anything. You're just, like, imagining, like, what this guy is saying he's going to do, whether he's actually going to do it or not. Like, if Travis is going to do anything about it, character arc and, like, how he starts to care. That was, like, the catalyst scene.
It is.
What makes you think it's a classic, though?
I think, well, just because it takes place on the streets of New York, which is such an iconic city for America. It's kind of where everything kind of begins. It's where all the people come in from. It's where everyone leaves from. It's where you have, all of the, I mean, all the things that kind of embody America you can find in New York.
It's definitely mid-20th century Americana.
It is, yes. And the just the overarching theme of isolation and feeling like you want to belong somewhere and do something in the world and have purpose. And I know that De Niro's character Travis says that he never actually felt like he was living until he was going somewhere, driving somewhere and doing something. And even in his conversation with Wizard, he's like, I want to do something. He's like, I don't know what it is. I just want to do something. I want something active. And I think that that's just kind of something that America is really about. Like, we're all kind of aiming, I would say not necessarily for the American dream anymore, but something like to do something that means something.
To have a purpose in our lives.
Yeah, to have a purpose in our lives and to make a difference.
Yeah.
So I think that's what makes this such a classic.
Yeah.
But what about you?
Yeah, like I, pretty much same thing. For me, the reason it's a classic is because it takes that Americana, and it just throws dirt all over it.
That's true, yeah.
It's very similar to how The Godfather was at the time, because these were made just a couple years apart, being one of the best character studies ever, probably.
The whole thing, it looked like a social experiment, kind of. Like, if you're kind of sitting in the corner of this movie and you're just kind of waiting and kind of like, okay, what are they going to do next? You know, because that's... Like,
the first time you watch it, you're like, I've seen the trailer, it looks like there's going to do something, and nothing really ever happens until the end. Which, that ending, they actually had to tone down the colors to get an R rating instead of NC-17.
Oh my gosh. I was watching it and I'm like, this is so gory.
Yeah.
Which is surprising for, a movie made back then.
But I think this is one that kind of just gets thrown to the back burner, even though I think it is one of his best, if not his best film.
Well, and fun fact, so De Niro decided to drive a taxi for a little bit in the streets of New York before he actually did this film. And apparently one guy got into his cab and he recognized him. He's like, you just got nominated for an Oscar. He's like, is it really that hard to find work? And he's like, yeah. He just kind of went along with it. But I think that spoke, I think, to the accessibility of what his character was going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I hope you enjoyed this episode and you tune back into Classics on Point. Bye.
Bye. Martin Scorsese is the director.
I pronounce it Scorsese.
It is not. Is it really?
We're on.
Alright,
We're off to a brilliant start.
This is amazing.
Okay.
Yeah. Just stop.
Okay.
What is the show called again?